Welcome back to the show. We are here live and unscripted, answering your questions directly from the listeners, from the watchers, depending on where you are tuning in from. I'm Katie Romagnolo, your host, and today we have a great question. And there's kind of two parts to the way I'm going to answer this question because there's a lot to go into. And it has to do with how do you actually manifest with the full moon? But more specifically, is there intentional statements that work or don't work, or why do we use them? Now, the reason I really love this question is because there's kind of this unknown gray area that not a lot of people talk about when it comes to manifesting, that is so incredibly important in the process that when we miss it, everything that we have built up in our energy doesn't actually materialize. So, part of my biggest passions in life is helping heart led entrepreneurs connect the dots, figure out where it is that they're being pulled into alignment so that you can actually thrive building a business that you love. Now, oftentimes in society, we're told that we have to do, hustle, and continue working round the clock, make sure that you're checking off all the boxes in your business, all of the things. But what nobody talks about is how much that leads to burnout and how much that leads to doing things that we're not really called to do because we think we have to for compensation, because we think we have to do a certain type of marketing in order to attract clients. Ultimately, at the end of the line, it's all to do with attracting energy and manifesting abundance. So, here's the framework that I use with myself. I've used this to grow a multi six figure business, become a multiple best selling and award winning author. I have also used this to sell out coaching programs, online programs. I use this in my membership to help other entrepreneurs figure out how to do their social media and ultimately create your own unique personal brand of magic. This works regardless of the industry that you are in. There is one main caveat to working with moon phases in order for them to actually do the thing that you want them to do. And that is, you got to be in tune with your own energy. Now, energy is the thing that actually creates all of our results. Whether we think we hustled for them or they came easily, there was an energy, a momentum that was built behind that. So, when we're thinking about manifesting, I want to backtrack a little bit towards the steps here as to how we even get to the full moon phase, why this is the phase to be creating results. As we're building momentum in our lives, in our energy field, the first thing that tends to happen is we have usually an inspired thought. Now, many times we don't realize this is an inspired thought. Sometimes we think, oh, I just had a cool idea, or oh, I bet you someone else has thought about that before, or oh, if I could only do XYZ, then I would absolutely love my life. And those inspired thoughts tend to get put on the back burner, and the reason being is because we have so many things to do in our lives, and sometimes it doesn't feel like it's the right timing or enough energy or money could be put into the thing that you want to build. But here's the thing with inspired thoughts: the longer we don't pay attention to them, one of two things happens. Either they keep showing up. They keep showing up in your energy field. You get all these nudges that have conversations that pop up out of nowhere that tend to really support the idea that you want, and it keeps knocking. Or somebody else all of a sudden has the same amazing inspired idea. Now, others may actually cultivate their ideas into something ultimately different in the end, in the physical experience. But the idea itself tends to find somebody that is going to fulfill that inspiration. Now, this is definitely from A Big Magic. Elizabeth Gilbert speaks so amazingly beautifully into this. And the reason I love this concept is because of how much I have experienced this in real time in my life. So, starting with that inspired thought, the thing that you really want to do that lights you up. Maybe it's a tiny little thought at first, and then it grows into a spreadsheet of all the things that you could improve on the topic or the area or the industry that you're feeling lit up about. Okay, so this is where manifestation is actually beginning. It's the feeling in the heart that usually comes with rejection afterwards. The rejection piece is really important because it tends to be where the break in your actual manifesting tends to happen. It's kind of like we're over here to start with, and it's like bright and glorious. And we've got this idea, it's twinkling about, and we're really super excited about it. But then over here at the end of the line, it's like, oh my goodness, there's all these steps in between. And my mental body starts thinking about, I don't know how to do all of those things, or I'm not sure if I have the experience, or who am I to actually bring this big thing into the world. And the break tends to happen through, I don't think I can do this. It's the rejection of the call. Now, I've been in this cycle of the rejection of the call many times myself, and the framework developed around moon logic is specifically there to help that stage of what I think is self sabotage. It's the things that we are fully capable of bringing to life because you had that inspired idea. It came to you for a reason. But then our human self talks us out of things. And that self sabotage is the number one reason that manifestations don't happen the way that we want them to. So, energy fields, going back to the thing that's actually meant for you and getting into the second part of the question today, really about, is there specific statements that tend to help allow for things to really show up to manifest in your field? So, when you think about the inspired thought that you had, the thing that you wanted to do that maybe you haven't done for a long time, or maybe it's only been a couple of days and you really haven't even let yourself explore into that further, I want you to think about the thoughts around it. So, I like to talk into opposites because statements really are codes. They are things that we're putting out into the universe that tend to attract additional momentum or energy around. So, the traditional form of looking at manifestation through I am statements is really powerful if you are able to actually feel that you are what you are trying to say. So, let me give you an example here. Say you are really wanting to step into starting your own business. You've got an idea, it feels really good, it's kind of scary. And so, therefore, you're feeling like, I need some affirmations here. I am confident. I am qualified to do this. I am attracting all of the resources that I need. I want you to start trying some statements that seem like they need to be impacted in your life in order to have what you want. But then really pay attention to how you feel as you say the statement. Because the ones that don't feel necessarily true for you or a little bit uncomfortable or like, I don't know, that's kind of silly feeling. Those are the ones to pay the most attention to. This is often the area that indicates where the rejection is happening. Remember the break, the reason why the inspired thought doesn't turn into the physical manifestation, the break in between, the self sabotage. The statement itself that is probably the opposite of how you're internally feeling at the moment is going to be the one that has the least amount of comfort in saying. So these are super important because it gives you number one information. I am confident. Okay. I don't know how to say that word. Maybe you're looking in the mirror doing an affirmation and it's feeling like this is really stupid and silly. That's a big indicator of where more energy of confidence, more vibration of confidence really needs to happen at this step in order to not start sabotaging opportunities. So this may feel like, oh, I can't go to that thing because I really don't have enough time. Is that actually influenced by the not feeling confident? And therefore, it creates the action of not doing, the actual self sabotage. So these affirmations, this energy field, this thing that maybe feels uncomfortable that you have been told it would be a great thing to do, this often is the time when we will stop all of the things that are going to be connected to the actual event that's going to create the impact in our lives. We will stop doing the thing. Now, I really want to hammer this point in because oftentimes we don't recognize when we're stopping doing the thing that we really need to do. So here's how we move around that feeling of discomfort, that feeling of the unconscious mind bubbling up to the surface that something's going on here that I'm not connecting with, but I know that I need to do. We need to switch over the statement to something that feels a little bit closer to your current energy field. It's kind of like wanting to create results in your life that maybe are going to have seven figures in your business. You want to make $1 million in your business, and maybe you haven't yet made six figures in your business. The difference in that energy field to try and manifest seven figures when maybe six figures hasn't been made consistently or with stability yet, it's not going to feel right. It's going to feel like, okay, yes, I understand that if I embody this, I'm going to be able to create it in my life, and I need to get in the vibration of thinking it. But there's so much gap in between the thing that sometimes we really want versus what we've experienced in our human experience. Now, it's not to say you won't do it. You can actually go from one to the next in a very quick and short amount of time period. But here's where the logic comes into how we're living in our 3D world. We've got a lot of densities that we work through here. We've got a lot of sometimes people that have doubts that put those doubts onto us, or just ways of being that have been past experiences when things haven't worked out. So, when there's too much of a gap in what your lived experience has legitimately been, and therefore what your thought patterns have been around it, and the thing that you want to manifest, the statement itself, the I am statement, can feel disconnected. It can feel hard to get that repetitive install into your energy field. So, the way again to move around that is to substitute some of these words with something that feels a little bit more congruent. So instead of I am confident, maybe it's I am getting more confident every day. I can't believe how confident I'm getting every day. This was one I really used for myself during a time period where I found it very difficult to have one on one conversations with people, very difficult to even make eye contact. There was a time in my life where I had so much anxiety that going to the grocery store, I would not look up from my walking pattern. I would literally look down as I walked because it felt so uncomfortable for me to make a connection with another person. I might have to speak. What would I say? I'm in a grocery store. What would I say? What would it matter? But this was a real lived experience for me. And it came from many layers of personal experiences that I had that really built up to who I was at that point in my life. But I knew I needed to get over it as part of where my goals were. So instead of an affirmation for me being, I am confident, that would have felt like, okay, yeah, you're confident. I would have rejected that thought and come up with all the reasons why I was not confident and completely sabotage the process of the manifesting the thing that I wanted. So instead, I started telling myself that I'm moving towards being confident because that I could believe. It's all about what you can actually believe in the moment because the feeling itself is what is going to create your results. The words with no feeling does nothing. Spoiler alert, it does nothing. So if you miss the step of not having the connection to the feeling, not having the belief to it, then really you might as well be just ordering water at a restaurant. The manifestations, the affirmations are not going to do what you want them to do. So move towards a thought that feels more congruent. I love doing this with questions. Questions are the thing that has drawn in my entire success. Now, because of two reasons. When you ask a question in real life, generally people tend to try and work and get you the answer. A question not asked goes unanswered. We know this. But the bigger, grander scale to this that's more important is the fact that when you ask a question, that then sends out a beacon energetically, even if the person that you're speaking with doesn't have the answer, or even if you're asking a question and you are completely